Shalom, Yashrallah. This your brother Dawada, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone that taught us this truth and ever will. And citation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump into this here quick little lesson dealing with this here article. It says, world sees U.S. as significantly greater threat to democracy than Russia and China. All right, from this here survey. And what's going on right now is the world is waking up to the fact of who Esau Edom is, all right, and where his power seat is at. It's America, all right. For a long time, people have believed that the fact of, so like, give me 1 second. All right. For a long time, people have believed that this was the golden city, which, America was a top prize city, but people believed that this was the, the most angelic place on earth, but nevertheless, it's being revealed that who this man is. All right, it says a poll taken in 53 countries found that 44% of the people around the world considered the United States to be a threat to their democracy, significantly less than those who believe the same about China and Russia. Now, before we get into China and Russia, America is the ones that's going around telling the world that, oh, terrorists, 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 and this and that. You should be afraid of these folks. Get on our side as we go over here and bomb these people and take all their resources. And, they also have the same sentiment towards China and Russia. They're the threat. They're the threat. They're the threat. But if you're actually watching, Russia and them, it's like Russia's not making any offensive moves. They're only on the defensive side reacting to what America is doing. All right. So now the wool is being pulled off of these people's eyes as far as, who's actually the threat to, their so-called livelihoods. All right. It says out of 53,000 people polled across 53 countries, more respondents, 44%, considered the U.S. influence on their country to be a threat to democracy than those who didn't, 26%. Meanwhile, only 38% considered Chinese influence a threat to democracy. And like I was saying, more people are looking at it like, yo, man, there wouldn't be no threats of World War III or nuclear holocaust anywhere if it wasn't for America. It's not like that these other countries, like, yeah, Russia's building up a nuclear arsenal, but in a defensive mechanism towards America. It's not like that Russia is surrounding America and posturing to invade them. It's America and NATO, NATO being headed by America. All right, that's in how do I say, encircling around Russia. All right, prompting them to just like, all right, man, if y'all gonna keep doing this, our only our last result is to pull out the nuclear weapons, and this is gonna be bad for everybody if we have to do this. But we're not gonna just let y'all just surround us like that, right? It says fear of Russian influence was the lowest of the three, with only 28% considering Russia to be a threat to their democracy. All right, because these other nations ain't really worried about Russia coming in there and invading their ass or taking their resources or spreading, false narratives towards their world leaders or anything like that. Like here in America, they say, oh, they had Russian interference with the elections and so on and so forth. But this is just rhetoric that America pushes out on these other nations and just on their own nation. But in reality, it's America that's doing these things, setting up their own puppets. Look at what's going on in Venezuela, right? It's not Russia that's over there trying to set up Juan Guaido to run Venezuela. It's America that's doing that, right? It says Asian countries were high among those that feared the U.S. influence, with Pakistan fearing Washington the most. Japanese respondents also considered the U.S. to be greater concern than China. Meanwhile, Mexico, Canada, Colombia, Greece, Israel, Australia, Ukraine, and Switzerland were also among the top half. And these are basically all under the same guise and control of America. The survey was conducted by Latana in a partnership with an alliance of democracies, which was founded in Denmark by former NATO Secretary General Anders Fogh. I don't know how to say his last name, Rasmussen. All right, which basically is going into the prophecies about the horse starting to hate the beast. All right, they're starting to wake up to realize that they don't have, it's like, if we keep riding with y'all, it's going to actually harm us more than benefit us, right? It says a detail on some social media found interesting, given that the results inconveniently showed higher levels of fear regarding the U.S. than Russia and China. But over here in America, they would tell you that, look, the biggest threat to the whole world and world peace would be what Russia and China, maybe Iran. But it's all the opposite of that, man. All right. While people in European countries express lower levels of fear when it comes to the U.S. influence, they still express more fear about it than they did about the influence from Moscow or Beijing, because you have nations that's over there in Europe, like Germany, all right, that would benefit greatly from being in an alliance with Russia, but they don't really benefit as far as being in an alliance with America. All right. Meanwhile, 64% of the world also considered economic inequality to be a threat to democracy, along with the limits of free speech at 53%, unfair or fraudulent elections at 49%, and the power of big tech companies, most of which are based in the United States, at 48%. Because a lot of these, like Facebook and all that, it's just basically governmental spying agencies, or how do I say, tools to propagate their own agendas into these other nations. All right, because if they own Facebook, all the ads that they can put up on your Facebook is coming from what? America, which who's actually in control of all that. So if they, let's say, because they had a story about this a while back where it's like, yo, two different people, if you Google search something, you'll get two different results based on, different things. Just like the news agencies here, if you watch just CNN alone, you'll have one perspective of America. You watch Fox News, you have a different perspective. All right. It says, regardless, the U.S. role in world affairs, people in Russia, China, and Europe were more critical, while Latin America and Asia were more positive. The reports also showed that concerns over U.S. influence in other democracies have increased since last year, up 20% in Germany alone and 16% in China. All right. Well, let me read this last paragraph and that's it. The Alliance of Democracies boasts that it is funded by several democratic governments, including Canada. It also received money from Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and George W. Bush Institute, the Atlantic Council, and the George Soros funded National Democratic Institute, which basically, again, like I said, it's all Edomites, which, George Soros is Hungarian, but nevertheless, these are all Edomites, all right? And they're all working in tandem, all right, to, go with the American agenda, all right? But the key is that I'm trying to bring out is the fact that the rest of the world is waking up from his Babylonian juice, all right? They're starting to see what's really going on. All right, so let's jump into a couple scriptures real quick. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51 and verse 7. It says, Jeremiah 51 and 7, it says, Babylon have been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. All right. The nations have drunken of her wine, which is going into their lies and their philosophies and things like that. Oh, no, Russia's really the problem, and we need to arm ourselves and put up our defenses against them. But and what is the price that you're paying? What is, when you thinking from the Germans' perspective, it's like, well, if we keep threatening Germany or Russia, how is this really benefiting us? If anything, we may be, at the receiving end of a war front because, Germany and them, they way closer to Russia than America is, right? They would take out their allies first. But if we leave America alone, how can we benefit from Russia? Well, we got the Nord Stream 2 pipeline where they're trying to sell us a better quality of natural gas at a cheaper price, all right, than buying from America, all right? In which America, we're not really benefiting from them, all right? It says the nations have drunken for wine, therefore the nations are mad. How do I say, which your girl name is Angela Merkel, right? And Donald Trump, when he was the president, he was trying to encourage the NATO partners to basically increase their military spending and all these things. And Angela Merkel wasn't budging on that. She's like, look, man, we can't afford to do all these things. We got to think about ourselves first, and which Donald Trump was, how do I say, kind of like taken back about that. But what was Donald Trump running for? Oh, let's put America first. So why can't your allies put their own nations first against this group or this bloc agenda, which doesn't serve the whole bloc? It only serves one member of the whole bloc, all right, which is America, all right? Let me go from there real quick to Isaiah 14 and Isaiah 14, I'm starting verse 16. It says, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying. Now, when it's going into they that see thee, obviously they've always seen them and known them. But like we just read, the nations have drunken of her wine. It's like you go out to a bar, you get kind of drunk, and some chick come up to you, start talking to you, and you just feeling the vibes because it's like, okay, so this little shorty talking to me, this and that. You feeling all good about yourself, but you got to remember, you've been taking shots all night, so you're not in your best. How do I say? You're not in your, your judgment isn't on point, more or less to say, right? And you may go home with this chick or whatever, and your friends try to take, nah, don't do all that. But as the night goes by, you start sobering up and you start looking around like, who the hell did I go home with? You start coming to your senses. And this is what these nations are doing. They're starting to wake up from this Babylonian juice. Like, we've been drinking this Babylonian juice and believing that Russia's been the problem the whole time. China's been the problem the whole time. But when you think about trade, you know, they say if like with Revelation 18 go into about the merchants welling for, you know, because America's being destroyed. Well, the reason they're gonna well is because America being a consumer nation, it gets predominantly all their products from these other nations and predominantly from China. So if let's say if America was destroyed, right, just America being destroyed, dealing with China and their trade, all the other countries that buy from China combined would not be able to replace the gap that America would leave. All right. So they have a weird relationship, you know, like, well, if America was to fall, China will fall. You know what I'm saying? So, and vice versa. If America was to take out China, then whoever they get the majority of their products from, all these other nations combined together couldn't supply America on, you know, what they import, you know, every year. All right. But now they're starting to wake up and say, like, look, wait a minute, wait. These people are the ones that's actually causing all the problems. All right. It says, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms? All right. Because you always talking about, oh, China's a threat. Russia's a threat. They got their military and you know, they're a threat to democracy and freedom around the world and everything like that. But as they're looking back, it's like, well, China ain't invaded nobody. Russia ain't invaded nobody. They not on the offensive. They are more or less on a defensive scale. But we over here following your ass, being America, into all these other nations to invade them that ain't had shit to do with you. But like way weaker nations that ain't even really got like no real military that's not even on par with you. And you got, I mean, you yourselves can take them out by yourself. But you got a conglomeration of nations like after 2001. You had like, I believe it was 13 plus nations that invaded Iraq. You know, America alone could have took out Iraq by themselves, but let alone they didn't have like 13 different nations roll up in there. You see what I'm saying? They're like, well, Iraq really wasn't the threat. If anything, you was the aggressor, right? It says, they that see thee shall nearly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms, that made the world a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners? You know, they talk about like the democracies and freedom and all the freeze this and freeze that. But what you got going on here in America, man, you got these Edomites, these cops that's going wild on Jake right now, that's killing them down, and, you know, the slavery that was over here. So it's like, wait, if y'all over there, if America's talking about these other nations and enslaving folks, and they have these people, they don't have freedoms and rights and liberties, and America's the freest place in the world, how come y'all got this epidemic of police officers killing Jake over there, man? All right. Why are y'all the ones that's over here invading other countries and doing all these things and overthrowing governments where they was perfectly fine over there minding their own business? They wasn't threatening nobody, but you went over there and you started up this here hornet's nest and you created all the problems, man. All right. This is what these nations are opening their eyes to see about America right now, man. All right. So when they take this here poll, which was created by America and their allies, the world is like literally showing them like, well, actually, y'all the problem. It's not these people y'all saying the problem. They're starting to wake up from this here situation. All right. Let me go to, before I grab that, let me grab this first real quick. Habakkuk 2 and 5, it says, yea, also because he transgresses by wine. All right, those philosophies, those doctrines. He know how to speak as a damn lamb, right? Oh, we got to go over here to free these people, send democracy and send freedoms over here because they have an oppressor over there. All right, well, people start believing that at first, but then ultimately what happens? You go over there and start bombing the hell out of those. Look at Iraq again. Oh, Saddam was such a madman and killing all these people. But what the world don't realize is that you didn't have such things as ISIS or terrorists that was over. You know, ISIS was called the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, right? That came upon after Saddam Hussein was killed by America, right? Then you had that problem, which, you know, ISIS was set up by America anyway. But, you know, in the world's eyes, for people who don't really understand anything, like, but they ain't have terrorists over there beforehand, man. You didn't have all these problems in the Middle East before America went over there. So was Saddam Hussein really a threat, or was he really keeping things in order over there where we had this here problem, man? All right. Says, yea, also because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and his death cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth to him all people. Another prime example, Venezuela. Venezuelans was doing they was all right over there. But see, America wanted to get all greedy and start taking all their damn oil and everything like that. Now Venezuela turned into like a third world country where people is over there starving, and you have all these problems going on. They can't sell their oil to other nations because of sanctions. So now the way of life, more or less to say, is down in the drains over there. But not because of Nicolas Maduro is a bad guy or their leaders are bad people over there. No, it's because America got sanctions on them people, man. Those people wouldn't be over there starving. You wouldn't have to send aid to them if America wouldn't have the sanctions on them people like that, man. All right. But look, this is what America's doing. It's like, no, we gotta go over here and liberate these people. We gotta go over here and save these people, and so on and so forth. But hey, man, this is what America does. Verse 6: Shall not all these take up a parable against him, a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increases that which is not his, and how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. And this is what, we were reading that article about that poll. It was like, well, the majority of the people think America's the problem, man. You wouldn't have, first of all, if they was to do the deep investigation, America wouldn't be in this much debt if y'all weren't going over here plundering these other nations and invading other nations to begin with. We wouldn't have this instability around the globe if America didn't have their nose in these other nations' countries, man. All right. All these things, the root of all these causes is America putting their nose in everybody else's business. All right. Verse 7 says, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booty unto them. All right. Well, let me read the next verse. Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land of the city and all that dwell therein. All right. Because ultimately these nations are going to they're going to wake up from this Babylonian juice and realize what's more beneficial to them. They're going to wind up turning on America Let me grab this real quick. Revelation 17 in verse 17, I believe. Verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, which would be basically America's allies, like NATO and the EU, right? These shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked, and eat her flesh and burn her with fire. All right. Now let me grab something else to kind of back that up. Obadiah 1:7, it says, all the men of that confederacy, see the people that you was in league with, right, have brought thee even to the border, and the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. So they were going with you for a certain amount of time, but now, like we read earlier, they're starting to wake up from this Babylonian juice, and they're looking, let me take care of me first, because look, hanging out with you, every time I go out with you to the bar, just so me and you can have a drink, you always seem to get in fights with everybody else. And then you start to fight, but I got to sit here and actually fight these people for you. Now I got arrested. I done lost my job. And so it's not beneficial for me to be hanging out with you, bro. Because every time I hang out with you, I get into trouble and it costs me. You get to go home and sleep well at night. But for me, I got to pay all these extra fines because of the things you're doing, right? It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. And they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, and there's no understanding in him. Because ultimately these nations are going to turn on America because they're going to wake up from this here Babylonian juice, this drunkenness that they have, and realize what's really best for them. And they're going to, like, you already see it going on, like Turkey making more closer ties with Russia than with their own NATO partners. Because why? It's more beneficial for them. They don't really have no benefits from dealing with America. Germany, they're also going to go in the same road. Like, yo, listen, we trying to make our own fighter jet with France, a partnership with them. We're trying to get better quality of oil at a cheaper price from Russia. But what are we doing dealing with you, man? You got sanctions on us if we go get oil from Venezuela, or if we get oil from Russia, and you cutting off all these places. Now we got to go buy this expensive ass Saudi Arabian oil. But guess who's buying Russian oil behind everybody else's back? America is. So how about we just ditch America and we just go look out for our own selves, because that's what we need to benefit ourselves first. Because if we keep taking care of you first, we're going to be shit out of luck, man. All right. Let me grab, where's it at real quick? We read that in Isaiah. Nevertheless, I slipped my mind what precept I was going to grab. But nevertheless, ultimately, this is what's going on with these nations. They're starting to wake up from this here drunken stupor, all right, that America, this witchcraft that they've had over top of all these other nations, which they was following them with, all right? And they're starting to wake up from these things and seeing what's actually benefiting them, what's more beneficial to them, to go their own ways or to stay along with America and follow along with them, man. All right, and now, they're taking polls to see what the majority of the people, how they feeling about these things. But all we're ultimately seeing is what these prophecies speaking. We'll close out on that. Habakkuk 2 and 3. For the visions yet for an appointed time. All right. A couple of years ago, 5-10 years ago, you couldn't really see Russia and America going to war with each other because Russia wasn't in no kind of predicament to even go to war with nobody. Right. And they wasn't a threat to nobody. Not to say a threat to nobody. America wasn't really on their case like that. Right. But now all these things are starting to speak. Right. Back 3 or 4 years ago, you couldn't see America's allies really turning on them. It was like, yo, we're going to ride with y'all for whatever. But ultimately, now you're starting to see these nations are starting to question, why are we over here? Why are we doing what we're doing with these people we're doing it with? Because it's not really benefiting us. All right. So it says again, for the vision, these prophecies is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. And they did that poll in that article we were just reading about, and in the poll, look, the majority of people in the poll was written by America and the allies, and they're like, no, actually, y'all the problem. It's not these people y'all saying is the problem. See, y'all created this here poll for us to be like, see, yeah, everybody's on board with us. They still drinking the Babylonian juice. They believe the lies we telling you that these people are the threat, but no, they're not believing that those other people are the threat. They believe that you're the threat. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it shall surely come. It will not tarry. All right. And so ultimately going into these things, man, these prophecies are now speaking loud and clear. And now you're starting to see it come to pass. America is slowly but surely getting pushed out on their own right about now, man. All right. They're not going to be in a position where it's like, oh, no, everybody's believing them. They're going to just keep invading the whole world and plundering the whole world and being the hammer into the whole earth and just killing everybody off from the earth. Now they're looking at them like, how long? And to him, this laid himself with thick clay, man. How long are you going to keep invading these people, man? How long are you going to keep spoiling these people, man? How long are you going to keep lying to these people about these things, man? You're the disruption on the whole planet Earth, man. Now we got to band together and take your ass out, man. But this is all according to the Most High's prophecies, man. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, this here lesson was edifying unto the elect. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that taught us his truth and never will. And salutation and much love for you, Aki, and pushing his truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth, and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Till next time, I say, stay strong. Shalom.